Laptop computer spins onto the screen, opens, and displays ATP Education Program webinar series, closes, and then spins off the screen.
Hello and welcome to this video on executive functioning and assistive technology supports available in every classroom. I am super excited about this topic today because we are going to be talking not only about executive functioning and assistive technology, which are two of my very, very favorite topics, but we are going to be talking about some things that you can do in your classroom immediately to help out students who are struggling. These are simple things that are available in every classroom, regardless of the technology available to you or the setup of your classroom. Here are some simple things that you can do in your classroom to help your students immediately. So again, welcome. My name is Cassie Frost. I am an assistive technology specialist, behavior specialist, problem solver, collector of things that may come in handy, and believer that everyone can learn. My contact information, as always, will be on the last slide, and you can use my Twitter handle here as well. So let's get into this right away because I'm super, super excited. First off, let's talk about assistive technology in the classroom. So one of the big key points of this is that executive functioning skills are needed in every environment. Organization, time management, attention, all of those things are used in our lives from the moment that we wake up until the moment that we go to sleep at night. This also means then that executive functioning supports and skills are needed in every classroom and in every area of the school building. This is both really exciting because it's something that we can work on across the board, and it also means that it's something that we all need to be aware of. When it comes to executive functioning, and again, we're talking about organization, time management, processing, memory, and attention, we have a lot of students who are really good at these things. And we have some students who are going to struggle. They may have deficits in one or more of these areas. And we also have some students who may be really good at these things most days, but due to stresses in their lives or other social emotional issues going on, their executive functioning skills may be lagging at various times throughout the year. So it's important as we're talking about assistive technology in the classroom and some of these easy fixes, it's important to be aware that while for one student, this may be assistive technology and a requirement in order for them to access their environment, many of the things that I'm going to talk about will help a lot of the students in your classroom. Because even students who have solid executive functioning skills most days are going to struggle from time to time. As I say that, think about a day that maybe your memory wasn't as good or your organizational systems kind of failed you. Having some extra things in place can really, really help you feel successful even on those off days. Common routines and items in your classroom can become AT for students with executive functioning deficits. When it comes to executive functioning, that line from being a helpful tool to being assistive technology sometimes seems like a very fine line. This is because there's so many executive functioning tools that many people use every day that it's really hard sometimes to sit down and think of them as assistive technology. Again, so it's always important to remember an item or a device or a routine becoming assistive technology is when it is absolutely necessary for a student to have in order to be successful in the school environment. So as we talk through things today, you're going to notice a lot of the things that I talk about are going to be just really great, solid classroom routine and process and supportive tools. And again, that's where they're going to help a lot of the students in your classroom, not only those for whom these tools are assistive technology. So we're going to kind of go category by category today. I don't always do it this way, but I think for this topic, it works really well. We're going to talk about each area of executive functioning, and we're going to talk about some things that you can do simply and easily to help support students who struggle in this area. So the first one we're going to start with is memory. For students who struggle with memory, one of the biggest first points that I'm going to look at for assistive technology are visuals. And you're going to see I got so excited here that I actually said visuals 3 times with an exclamation mark. Visuals are super important, and they're one of the easiest assistive technologies to help support executive functioning. A lot of times I will tell teachers that if you've had to say something 3 times, make a visual, because you're going to keep repeating it over and over and over again, when it would be much easier for you to not have to repeat it and much easier for the student to take a look at a visual than have to ask you one more time. So some examples of visuals that can help support students with memory are posters that actually show classroom routines. So routines for lining up, routines for handing in assignments, routines for getting out things at the beginning of a class period. Think for a moment about the many classes that your students participate in a day. If they're in elementary school, they may stay in your room, but you're still going to switch between topic and topic as the day goes on. For students in junior high and high school, maybe they're switching classes every hour. When they get into a new classroom or a new subject in elementary school and they sit down at their desk, there's a very specific routine of what they need to do or what they need to get out. For math class, that typically means getting out a notebook and a pencil. In science class, it may be clearing your desk off completely. Each of those are very different routines. So it is important to create posters or visuals, perhaps, of what students will be needing at the start of class. Takes away a lot of anxiety, really helps students who are struggling with memory. Directions or lists of what to take out on desks. That may be just a list on an individual student's desk, or it may be a poster again that's going to help support the entire classroom. Visual schedules. So whether that's written or with pictures, color-coded, it can be as simple or as ornate and fancy and polished as you would like it to be, but give your students who struggle with memory a way to know what's coming next. That could be writing the day's routine on the board. That could be an entire day schedule with what classes are coming next. Visual schedules can be very personalized to students, or they can be things that help support an entire classroom by being written on a front board. Label the things that you can in your classroom. Add signs that say where things are located. So for example, if the lined paper is in the first cabinet, put a sign on the first cabinet that says lined paper. Same thing with scissors, markers, glue, colored pencils, where to turn in assignments. Label things around your classroom. This is going to help students with memory deficits, and it's also going to help you from having to answer the question over and over again, where are the colored pencils? And then along with that, make visuals for routines. What are the steps of completing different processes in your classroom? Again, thinking back to a science class, maybe if you are using a beaker in class, you always wash it out, rinse it, and put it in a certain place to dry. Create a visual of that process so that students know what they're supposed to do next, aren't worrying about missing steps, and you are not having to repeat yourself. Here's some examples of some visuals, and these are just a couple to kind of get your mind going. The first one on the left are going to be just examples of quick labels. These are super simple. They don't need to be fancy. One says scissors, one says paper. I could absolutely put pictures on these, but make yourself a set of some form of label to put in the areas that items go in your classroom. The example in the middle is a poster of a hand washing routine. So this is just showing 3 easy steps in a very visual way of washing hands. Now again, this is pretty rough. We could have definitely made it prettier, but visuals don't always have to be super beautiful. The point of the visual is to have the supports there for a student to know what's coming next or what it is they need to do next. With this visual, now hand washing becomes a simple 3-step process that you do not need to repeat, and students know what they need to do. The last example on this page is an example of a visual schedule. This is an all-day schedule, but provides a student who struggles with memory with the start and stop times of each class, what subject that happens during that time period, along with a picture icon if they're feeling overwhelmed by words, and a place to write in any changes for the day or notes. So this schedule was an example for a student who struggled with changes during their day, perhaps when there was a substitute teacher or something was going to be slightly different, and it was a place to write that in so the student knew what was coming and didn't need to try to commit that to memory. Other tools for memory, Post-it notes are phenomenal. You can write down notes, put them on students' desks. Having routines. So consistent routines are phenomenal for memory because students know what's coming next. So developing routines and patterns for what goes on in your classroom really allows students who struggle with memory to be comfortable and know what they need to be doing. Obviously, all routines change from time to time and different things are going to happen in your class. But if there are some basic routines and flows to the day, it will really help your students out. Providing digital prompts and alarms. So again, reminding students maybe when they need to stop reading or when they need to move on to the next task. Providing those audio cues can be really, really helpful. And then again, clock visuals. This could be timers showing the passage of time, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we're talking about time management. But you can also do things like taking a dry erase marker to a clock to block off what's going to be happening at each time in your classroom, or providing pictures of clocks along with your schedule showing students what's going to be happening at each one of those times. If you have students who struggle with organization, you're going to see again, that's that visuals piece, putting labels on bins and storage areas, really helping students get things back where they need to go, and relying again that students will then know where to get things when they need them. One of the tips that I really enjoy are putting pencil pouches in binders. If you are using any sort of binder system in your classroom, these binder pencil pouches are a lifesaver. They actually can clip right inside of the binder, and students don't have to worry about losing their pencils or the things they need for class. You can find them, I think, now for like $1. And they have been kind of a savior for some of our students who struggle with organization. Again, having a binder system, what goes in the binder, what goes in folders, helping students develop those systems. And then providing bins or dividers for students' desks. So a student that struggles with organization may benefit greatly from having assigned locations in desks or in lockers to put things. And we can all picture the really messy desk or messy locker. This is where these tools can come in handy. When we're talking about time management, so showing the passage of time, visual timers. And again, this can be a dedicated visual timer, or it can be something as simple as, pictures of a clock and where the hands will be at certain times, or again, using that dry erase marker on clocks to show what's going to be happening when. Provide picture or visual schedules again. Display finished projects as examples. If you're asking a student to complete a product or a project of some form, show them what it should look like at the end. It will often give them kind of a visual of what they need to get to, and that will help with the time management in getting to that place because they have an end goal in mind. Splitting tasks into smaller pieces. Again, if you're going to do a multi-day project, really give students those checkpoints. By the end of this period, you should be this far. By the end of tomorrow's period, you should be this far. It really helps students understand that passage of time and where they need to be each day. Also, have assigned times and routines. Know that in your classroom, it helps if you can assign certain chunks of time to certain things. So maybe when a student comes to class, the first 2 minutes is to get all of your items out. The next 5 minutes are for reading. The last 3 minutes are going to be to write in your planner. Really dedicate those times as much as possible for students to help them move through the things that they need to do. Here are some examples of timers. As you can tell, there's a lot of them. This can be as simple as a digital timer, like on the left, that's going to show a countdown of time. And over on the right just shows a wide variety of timers showing the passage of time. You can see there's a lot of different styles. Some have numbers, some don't have numbers, some are more digital, some are things like sand timers. There's going to be different timers that are going to resonate with each student and how they perceive the passage of time. The important thing is to look for them and be aware that providing those visual timers really can help your students out. For students who struggle with processing and switching from one task to the other, audio cues and/or visual cues can be very helpful. This could mean that before you're going to switch tasks, you ring a bell a minute or two before that transition is going to happen. Or perhaps you provide a visual cue on the board of maybe a timer that changes color and it starts to turn red when an activity is going to be stopping. Find some form of audio and/or visual cues to let your students know that some form of transition is going to be happening. Whether that's a student stopping reading and beginning to listen to you, whether that's the homework time is going to end and you're going to start moving into planner time. The more you can front load students and let them know that a switch is happening, the more smoothly that will go. Limit the switching as much as possible. Try to avoid interrupting one task to talk about another task. And again, then having assigned locations for tasks. So science classes are usually pretty good at this. We do labs in this area, we do work in this area. But think about that for your classroom. If students are going to be doing group work, do they have a specific place that they go? Or if they are going to be listening to you, is there a certain place that they always look to be listening to you? Is there always a dedicated place where they would be doing silent reading? This really helps students kind of help get their brains ready for what's going to be happening in that area. So for example, maybe if I'm working with students, they're going to be working with me in a small group at the front table. If they're going to be talking with each other and kind of doing a group activity, they're going to be working together at a back table. If they're going to be working independently, that's when I want them at their desks. That really helps delineate those spaces and help our students process what's going to be happening next. For attention, there's a lot of different things that can be helpful. For example, limiting some of the visual distractions by closing curtains. I know we all love brightly colored posters and fun things in our classroom, but limiting some of those unnecessary visuals can really help students focus on the things that they need to. Also, supportive visuals, so things like visual schedules, posters that kind of outline routines, those are great visuals to have. Timers are great for attention, especially for students who struggle with attending for long periods of time. Knowing how long they need to attend for can really help with that anxiety and really help them focus their attention for as long as they need to. Now, I want to go back to those top two because I have pictures here. Fidgets can really help with attention. Again, for students who maybe have an excess of attention, such as students with ADHD, sometimes having something to fidget or move around in their hands helps take a piece of that attention there, which then allows them to focus more on you. I also liked putting a picture of a divider here. I think many of us were in classrooms at one point or another where, you put up a folder kind of out of corners so that, somebody couldn't cheat off your paper or couldn't look at what you were doing. I think sometimes those can still be very useful, not necessarily for cheating, but to keep a student's eyes from perhaps looking around at other things. So I have a few students that really like having their own workspace, and they know that it really helps them focus. However, in their classroom, there's really not a dedicated workspace where there's not people all around. They've discovered that by putting up a folder or two, it really helps visually block off the things that are distracting them. So for example, if the student in front of them is shaking their foot a lot, every time they look down at their paper, they can see that out of their corner of their eye, and it's very distracting. The folder can really just kind of help provide that visual barrier. So we've went through a lot of simple things today. These are some of my favorite tools. They're quick, they're simple, they're available in every classroom to help students who are struggling with executive functioning. If you have any other questions or any recommendations, things that maybe you think, wow, this is another thing that I use all the time you didn't mention, feel free to email me. My email and my Twitter handle are both here on the screen, and I always look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to continue to follow up on this video series of executive functioning as we start moving more specifically into some high-tech tools and some things that will help specifically for each area of executive functioning deficit. I look forward to hearing from you and hope you enjoy the videos.
Thank you for watching. For more information on the ATP education program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov/education or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.